Hello and welcome back to episode 7 of the Second Take podcast. And as you can see, we do have a very special guest in Coach Brandon Smith, ex D-1 basketball player at Cal University. Welcome to the show.
Man, I'm excited to be on the show. I've watched a few episodes of you guys, and obviously having the privilege of knowing you guys being coach, but at the same time too, I'm excited to chop it up tonight with you guys.
All right. That's great. And I guess we're just going to kind of start as like you giving us like a kind of general overview. I mean, we kind of know it already, but just a general overview of your life in basketball and how basketball has impacted you like throughout your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I was one of those guys that started off really young. And I know like that they kind of shy away from that these days of like specializing in one sport early, which makes you more prone to like injuries and stuff. But I fell in love with basketball like as early as I can remember. And then I was in 4th grade and I went to a basketball camp, which was my first basketball camp. And it was at the high school that I would end up going to in our area. De La Salle High School is a pretty legendary school known for its football and basketball program. And so during that camp, I told my dad, I was like, and I'm in 4th grade. I told him, I was like, I'm going to be the best point guard that ever played at De La Salle. And my dad was just like, all right, son, like, hey, you're going to have to work really hard for that. I think you could do it, you know? So I feel like from the start, I was already set up for success in a way because I had a support system that really believed in me. So, which is one of the reasons why I do my best to be that for kids today. And during that time also at another basketball camp, this guy saw me. And in 4th grade, he was like, hey, you have the potential to play Division I basketball, and I want to help you get there, which is unreal for a 4th grader. Did I have that? I don't know. Did he see something in me? He did. So starting that next year in 5th grade, I had made up my mind, like, 1, I was going to be the best point guard at De La Salle ever. And then 2, I wasn't like, I had my set sight on playing professional basketball someday, which growing up, it's always like, yo, I'm going to play in the NBA, which the NBA is ridiculous to get into, right? So 5th grade comes, and this story will get a little bit quicker real quick. But 5th grade comes, and I go to a basketball camp at UC Berkeley. And my dad used to take me there all the time. We'd go see Cal sometimes get their butts whooped by UCLA or USC or Stanford or U of A. So I fell in love with the school and the campus and the basketball program. And I was like, in 5th grade, I told my dad, I was like, I'm going to play at Cal someday. So my dad was like, all right, like looking at the statistics for these, okay? So every year, graduating seniors, only 3% of those seniors will go on to play Division I basketball. And when you think in that 3%, every school has a certain amount of scholarships that they can give out per season. And in those specific scholarships they can give out, they're looking at certain positions. So if they got a point guard in the class ahead of you, they're not probably going to recruit another point guard. Now, there's some schools like in Kentucky where they're just shooting out like one and dones, okay? But for your more traditional programs, like your chances of landing at the school you really want to go to for basketball, especially at a high D1 level, it's just the odds are against you. So 5th grade, this guy named Ryan Price, who's one of my mentors, he was like, hey, I'm going to help you play D1 basketball someday. So we're going to get up early and work out. So I was in 5th grade, and this is no exaggeration. I was getting up at 5:45 3 or 4 times a week to work out with this trainer. And he would take me to the gym, and he dropped me off at school sometimes. And I worked my butt off in middle school. So from like 5th grade until 9th grade, I was with him all the time. And so 9th grade comes, I make the varsity team at De La Salle. We win a state championship. We're ranked 3rd in the country behind Montrose Christian that year, who had Kevin Durant, and Oak Hill Academy, which had Tywan Lawson, Michael Beasley, Nolan Smith, to name a few of those guys, and Brandon Jennings that year. So like my high school program comes to an end. My senior year, I am Gatorade runner-up, state player of the year. I got nominated for the McDonald's All-American game. I didn't make it, obviously. Was ranked top 10 in my class for point guards, and I ended up like taking the scholarship to go to UC Berkeley. And so it was one of those things, man. Like, I wish I was like 6'7", 6'8". I'd probably be playing in the NBA legitimately. And I'm not even gonna blame my height, but I think like my drive and my work ethic, I think I reached my potential. Like, I don't know if too many people can say that. Like, I'm barely 6 feet. I'm a pretty smart basketball player, but I just worked my butt off, man. And so I go to Cal. I help lead the program to 4 of its most consecutive winningest years. We won a Pac-10 conference championship. We almost won 2 more, but I hate Stanford. And we got to the NCAA tournament 3 out of my 4 years. And after that, I went and I did 2 seasons of out-of-the-country basketball. So it's crazy because it feels like it all went by so fast. But yeah, that is my story in 8 minutes right there. So
I just want to know quickly where you played overseas.
My first season, I played in the LMBP down in Mexico, which the team that I signed with actually isn't even a team anymore, which is crazy. That league has changed a lot. And then there's a lot more guys in that league now, which is cool. And then my second season, I actually ended early, and I was in kind of like not that top tier China league over there, but I was in kind of like a second tier, and I was living 2 hours north of Shanghai. So that league that I was in, and the team that I played for, I got to play against one of my childhood heroes, Jason Williams, White Chocolate, man. So that was pretty cool. Like, was it Daniel Gibson, who was with the Cavs for a little bit? He was playing over there during that time, so I played against him. So yeah, I got hurt over there. I was super lonely, if I'm being really honest. And I think like my heart wasn't in the game as much as it used to be. And when you lose your heart in that, it's not as much fun anymore. Like, you're no longer that kid hitting game winners in your backyard. But you're now like, there's so much pressure on you to perform, and like your entire livelihood is really like resting on that. And then you just see the business aspect of basketball. It could kind of taint a little bit of your love for the game. And so for me, I'm such a heart passionate type dude that once my heart was out of it and I'd sprained my right wrist really bad, it wasn't bad enough to get surgery, but it was just nagging me. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm coming home. And I legitimately thought I'd play another season. And then I was done. Like, that was it. So that was in 2015. And then right after I came home, I met my wife. And yeah, things progressed. And so it was kind of one of those things, like, I still get some offers to go play overseas, but the offers aren't that great. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be living in Colombia making $5,000 a month. That just doesn't sound nice, you know?
These 2 questions are kind of tied together, I guess, but you had a pretty loaded class in California. Your graduating year with Kawhi Leonard, Solomon Hill, obviously 2 NBA guys right now. Who is the best player you ever played in high school and college, respectively?
Ooh, okay. So it's not going to actually be in my class. But yeah, the class here in California, I remember playing against Kawhi. We played against him in a Memorial Day tournament. And at this time playing him, he wasn't Kawhi Leonard as we know him. He was like an up and coming prospect. So that summer, my high school team, we were playing as an AAU team in this Labor Day tournament. And in this tournament, Kawhi Leonard and about 4 other guys who went, actually, no, they had like 5 or 6 D-1 guys on that team. So they had one kid who was Chase Tapley. He played at San Diego State. Xavier Thames, he played at San Diego State. Renardo Sidney went to Mississippi State, I believe. He ended up being a wash, but he was 7 foot, like 340 pounds in high school. So he was just like killing everybody. And Kawhi was on that team. So I'll actually find the picture, but I was guarding Kawhi in high school, and I just looked so tiny because I'm just like sitting low. But Kawhi was nice, but I'd say the best player I played against in high school, honestly, was Brandon Jennings. His AAU team was loaded, man. I mean, The SoCal All-Stars, I would argue, is the greatest AAU team ever assembled. So you had Brandon Jennings, you had Taylor King, who was a high school, like, amazing. You had Chase Budinger, who had a solid NBA career, went to U of A, one of the bounciest white guys in a long time. You had Kevin Love, I mean, solid guy. You had Malik Story, who played at USC, who was a very touted high school prospect. And you had, was it? Oh man, I forgot his name. I could see him. He had a stint in the league too. So Brandon Jennings was like, he was doing things that no other high school guys was doing. Like he had this like New York City like swagger in the same way like Sebastian Telfair and Stephon Marbury. So like, I'm in 8th grade going into my freshman year. So I haven't even started a high school class yet. So technically I'm still in 8th grade and I'm backup point guard on my varsity team. Coach puts me in, he's like, hey, lock this dude up. So I'm doing my best to go out there and play. And I ended up picking him one time actually, which I have that film somewhere, I'll find it. But then a couple other times he just got the best of me because he just had this other gear. College. Whew. This is tough. And this is a little bit of a weird answer. One of the best players I ever played against was the point guard who was ahead of me at Cal my freshman year, Jerome Randall. Jerome Randall is the quickest, deadliest player I've ever played against in my life. I mean, he was doing things at 5'7", 5'8" that like not a lot of people do. And he almost led the Pac-10 that year in scoring. So he was nice. I think I could argue probably Kawhi, just because he was at San Diego State and we play them every year. I couldn't argue Dame Lillard because at Weber State, he wasn't Dame Lillard, who we see right now, just tearing up the NBA. Because we played against Duke, we played against Syracuse. You know what? I'm actually going to go with this answer. Evan Turner. So this would be 2009, 2010 season. Evan Turner was like averaging a triple-double. So this is a funny story. We're in New York for the Coaches versus Cancer Classic, and we get to play at Madison Square Garden, which is like every Hooper's dream. Like, yo, we are playing at the Garden, the most infamous arena ever in the world, you know? So this tournament's loaded because it's us, it's North Carolina, it's Ohio State, and it's Syracuse. So it's like, whether you win or lose, you're gonna get you're gonna get whooped. So we end up playing Ohio State, and Evan Turner at this time is like Mr. Triple Double, which, by the way, it was the first time I ever heard him talk, and I was so surprised by his voice. It was just like a weird thing, you know. It's very nasally. But I switched off on him. They had run this pick and roll kind of option. I switched off. And I'm guarding him, and I was like, literally in the back of my mind, I was like, I have no chance. I have no chance of containing this guy right now. But like, it's like when you play with like little kids and you just like, yeah, I'm a grown man and I can do whatever I want and I can miss shots and I'm just gonna put this back up myself. That's what it felt like playing Evan Turner at that time. Like he was the man. So yeah, I would say that. I'd say Brandon Jennings in high school and I'd say Evan Turner in college.
Something I've heard you talk about, but not in real depth before, was the differences between the style of play in high school, college, and then like NBA and pro levels, and not just the style of play, but like the environment of the game. Do you mind like elaborating on that? Like what those things were like?
So I think elite level high schools the game is very fast. But you still have a lot of guys who don't necessarily have the control and the athleticism yet. You got boys, you know? But when you go to college, it's like, imagine the best player that you played against your high school season or your high school career ever. And then you just multiply that by 9 other bodies on the court. So when you get to college, like all these guys who were coming from their different places, they were all the guys in their hometown. They were all the guys who were hitting game winners, and the whole city was like, yo, this guy's amazing. So you show up to college and it's all these superstars essentially. And I remember one of my like crazy moments was like in high school, I could get by anybody. Like I'm fast. I got a fast first step or whatever. And I get to college and that court feels humongous because now you're in arenas. You're not like, oh, we could fit 1,000 people in here. But now it's like, we could fit 15,000 people in this arena. And how small those courts feel, because now that center that you're driving against is not 6'2" from your little local high school. That guy is now 6'9" with a wingspan of 7'2", and he's just standing in the lane waiting for you. Like there's no openings. So like in college, you're like, dude, this court is so small because these guys are so long. Like that's why I always hated playing Syracuse. I've never beat Syracuse in my life. But that freaking zone, and they got a 6'5" guard at the top, it's just like, for little people like me, it's tough to see around. And then the other thing too is how precise the game is in college. So like, I mean, we had this technology at Cal, which most colleges do now, is like, I could look up film of any single player, and this software will break down where they're most successful on the court. So if some guy is strictly a catch and shoot shooter, this thing will break down on the court where his catch and shoot shots are the most successful, highest percentage. But then it also breaks down his worst areas too. So it's like, oh, we got to push this guy to the left because his left dribble pull up sucks. He's shooting 12% when he goes left, but he shoots 25% when he goes right. So push him left. So our scouting reports on players and what they do is like, it's so precise. And it's this weird thing because high school is like, that's the purest the game will ever be. And I didn't believe that. I used to always think like, man, once I get to college, it's going to be like this like awesome thing. We're going to have this great camaraderie with our teammates and stuff. It's not like that in high school, because now when you get to college and you're playing at a high level, everyone's trying to make the league. But you got to think about that. So like your chances of making the league is far less than 3%. Now you're talking like point something percent, because you're not just graduating senior class. It's now who is the best in college basketball, the top 40 players in college basketball that year. Which now they don't even really base off the best players, it's potential and upside. So the college game feels very, very tight, but it's a whole level of hype that you don't ever experience in high school. Like one of the most hype moments I've ever had, we're playing at Kansas versus Kansas. And their fans are crazy. And in this arena, the way the acoustics are set up, those acoustics just bounce off those wooden bleachers. Like, you're just like, dude, this is insane. And they used to sing that, what's that? Is it Flatbush Zombies? Da 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 da. And then everyone starts singing it. So if you can imagine, there's like 14,000 people who are all singing this at the same time. The lights are off. The only thing that you can see is the LED screens lit up. And I remember feeling like, yo, I could probably like jump through this roof right now. Like the amount of like electricity, like it wasn't just adrenaline, but there was like such an energy in the room. And like, that's crazy, you know, like you don't get that in high school. And then depending on where you play at pro, you don't necessarily get that. So that was a cool thing about college basketball, is the environment. Because now you're not just like, oh, it's a packed house, we got 200 people here tonight. But like a packed house means 13,000 people cheering, and people wearing your jersey, and people holding up big heads of your face, and like you make a play and the whole arena goes crazy. Like that's tough to beat. And so once you get to the pro level though, it's kind of like, it's not as exciting, to be honest. It's more exciting because now you're getting paid. You're like, yo, this is dope. Let's get this guap. But at the same time too, it's not the same. So it's like, it's not so much riding on wins and losses, because you have a bigger season and people are looking forward towards the playoffs. But in college basketball, you know that early season loss could put you on the bubble to getting in the tournament in the springtime. So in every level you go, in a weird way, everyone just gets smarter and the game moves slower, if that makes sense. Like, everything is so much more precise. Like in college, like you see guys waste so many dribbles. It's like, oh, let me get 20 dribbles. Yeah. In college, it's like, you don't see that. And then the pro, it's kind of different because you got guys like James Harden who, you know, dribble the ball forever. But yeah, I would say that's sort of it. I'm going to share a quick story real quick because it spawned on me. One of the coolest things was we were playing at Ohio State. This is my sophomore year. And I'm coming off of a slump, like just a mental and emotional slump. And we're playing Ohio State, and I'm like really not confident in my shot at that time. And it was a close game at one point, and their fans are going crazy. And in Ohio State, none of us have family there or nothing. So it's like, it's essentially an entire stands filled with Ohio State. And they had that kid, Royce, what was his last name, White?
Max, that's your domain.
I was
Max,
not a
this is
fan
your-
back then.
You're not a real.
He was the guy who made the NBA, but he ended up quitting because he was too scared to fly on planes.
Damn.
What?
Yeah.
Couldn't
That's
be
true
an Ohio
story.
State
True
guy.
story. He like really suffered with some like deep anxiety stuff. But anyways, we're playing them. Their fans are going crazy. And I remember my center at the time, Mark Curry, he gets this rebound. He finds me like on the opposite wing. He was a lefty, throws me a bullet. I'm not confident. I'm like, God, please let this shot go in. So I catch it. I let that thing fly. It ends up going in, and it's a really clutch bucket. And you could hear all the buzz in the stands. All these fans are going crazy, and all of a sudden you just heard, shh, it's quiet. And it was like such a surreal moment. You're like, dude, my little action of making a basket right now just silenced thousands of people who are cheering, because now they feel the power of what I just did. That's like, it's a crazy feeling. Like, you just feel like, oh, this was powerful, you know? So that was always one of my favorite things, is going into people's houses and just like tearing it up and making their fans be quiet and talking our talk to the fans and, you know, all that sorts of stuff. So
It was Royce White, by the way.
it was, so I got it right. Nice.
And then I have a question that sort of builds off what Asher asked. And so what do you think is the main reason, aside from like injuries and like height differences and stuff like that guys who excel in like college and high school end up like just not at all making it in the pros, or like not even getting the pros? Other than, I mean, is it more like the difference in play style between high school and college, or college and the NBA, or like you said, like scouting gets a lot more intense in college?
You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'll just name off a couple. One is some guys, the reason that they're able to transition from high school to college greatly, or the transition from high school to college is bad, sometimes has to do with the system they were playing in. So for example, it's like, if all you could do really, like if you couldn't create your own shot and all you could do is just catch and shoot in corners, if you had a nice point guard in high school who could drive and kick and you could average 25 points a game, you look like amazing. And then you get to college and everyone now is a really good defender and you can't create your shot, and everyone's like, dude, this guy sucks. Well, no, it's not necessarily because he sucks. Like, that's part of it, but it's more of the system that he's in. So some guys, it's hard for them, depending on what system they're in. It could either make you look amazing, or that system can like expose you because you don't really have it. And then two, the other thing is, unfortunately, this is a young man's game. So there's a lot of guys who necessarily like won't even have great seasons. They'll average less than 10 points and they'll get drafted in the first round because they're 6'7" and they got a 50-inch vertical. So like a lot of that is based off upside of what they can see. So they're not going to take some 6-foot point guard who's just really solid because they feel like, this guy's maxed out. You know, like we could probably go through a list of like all these like shorter point guards who had amazing college careers, but somehow NBA managers and scouts, they don't feel like he has that extra gear to tap into. So you hear that word a lot, is upside. He's got a high motor. He's got upside. He's got potential, right? Those are kind of like code words for saying we don't even think he's begun to scratch the surface on what he's capable of. And then the NBA, dude, it is so hard to make it. Like, kids ask me that all the time. And when I was younger, I used to get offended. But now I don't get offended because I'm like, I mean, I could have played in the G League. I got offers from like 2 seasons to play. To me, the money just wasn't good enough at that time. And it just felt like high risk, high reward. So I was like, if I don't get a 10-day contract, I'm going to be stuck here making $2,000 a month. Like, that sucks, you know? So, and then I would say the other thing too is, man, sometimes people get complacent. Like, unfortunately, like guys will reach college and then all of a sudden there's this sense of like, yo, I made it. And as soon as you feel like you made it, that's when you know like your thing's coming to an end. Whatever you had going, that's coming to an end because you lost your hunger. So guys lose their hunger. And then other guys too, like they lose their hunger because of the business side of basketball. Like, unfortunately, there's a lot of politics involved behind the scenes. Like, there are boosters and donors who want guys to play more. And there are guys who sometimes get more playing time, who get more chances to make mistakes than other guys who are coming off the bench. Like, so it's like, it's a lot of that. And then too, I think just the mental and character aspect of it. There's just guys like who aren't good with structures just in general in their life. So there's a lot of guys, man, like dudes who I can name in my class who should be in the NBA right now. But because they couldn't get their ish together and all they want to do is just like smoke weed and party and play 2K, like they party themselves out of a D1 scholarship. And then, especially once you get to the NBA, guys really feel like they made it. So like having a long career, mentally, you're just in a different place. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And the other I was going to say, you were saying something about like how it's like you were talking about upside a lot. And I noticed how like the past couple years, just being a shooter has become like Duncan Robinson. He went to Williams for at least a year and he like transferred to a D1 school and is now in the NBA, like playing well in the NBA. And I just thought that it was like, I mean, I guess it's cool because I mean, I'm a shooter and I know other.
How tall is Duncan Robinson?
I think, well, yeah, that's another thing. I think
he's like 6'7".
Yeah, he looks long. So like, and that's the crazy thing because the game is changing. Like, you don't have too many back to the basket bigs. Like when I was playing in college, we still had that. And like, you know, anomalies come and change the game. You got a guy like Steph Curry, which it's like, you know, changes things. But yeah, like the upside. So it's like, especially guys are seeing like, hey, how tall are you going to be? Right? Because length is huge. They can see how you move. They can see like these gears that you kick into, like these, I would kind of, for someone who's not familiar with what that looks like, I would say like you begin to see these like flashes of brilliance and you're thinking, oh my God, if this kid could get more consistent, he could play at that level, like that flash that we see. So yeah, it's crazy because the whole like, I'm navigating with some guys who I've trained who are now kind of at that place, like seniors who are like trying to get those D1 looks. And dude, it's like, it's tough. It's very tough. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, who are like pimping out these young kids. There's a lot of like shady programs and shady like trainers who are like promising these kids a bunch of stuff, but like, nah.
One that seems shady is Renaissance Academy. It seems like
don't they? Well, Austin's dad last year told my dad that they like globally recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
which is wild.
Because, dude, you have like, I mean, this is all like that business thing I was talking about, especially once you get to college level. It's now like, it's high school level now, if we're being really honest now, because I mean, you got these big shoe brands who are literally throwing like 6-figure amounts to AAU teams. Like, hey, get these kids gear, cover their flights, their food, all that. Hey, bring moms too, you know? And in hopes that Nike's like, hey, we're going to snag the next LeBron because he's going to have a great experience with one of our Nike travel teams. He's going to, hopefully, we're going to like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go to a Nike school. And then once you're done, after that freshman fall semester, you're going to sign with Nike, you know? So like, I mean, that's what you have really. So it's like, it's crazy because like a place like Renaissance, best believe that there's money behind it. Best believe that there are college coaches who are calling in favors in the area, you know, like because they're projecting if this kid comes to my school, he's going to draw a lot of attention. A lot of attention means a lot of money. A lot of money means job security. It means promotions, you know, all that sorts of stuff. So,
I was watching a 60 Minutes episode with my family, and there was a story about one of the most shady things I've ever seen in my whole life, where this guy was pretty much bringing people in from Africa, and these were 6'5" plus girls, and then 7 foot plus guys, and he was bringing these people in, and brought them to a school that didn't really exist. It was like called like Amelia Earhart or like Eleanor Roosevelt, like some school. They look it up, it didn't actually exist, and it was just deep shady business. Like a school that doesn't exist. First of all, they were being put on like an AAU team, but they thought it was a high school. They thought they were gonna get like go through a high school. They thought they were under the impression that they'd get a green card through this, like all this stuff, and then they're stuck in America and they're like, I know nothing here, I don't have anyone, and what the hell is going on? And it was like the deepest, shadiest business. And now we have 10 plus guys in prison for white collar crimes and things like that. But it's so screwed up in how like deep the money goes now.
Yeah, it's shady. Xander, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say that's essentially what's happening at Renaissance. I mean, Max can correct me if I'm wrong. I think every single player on that team was I know they were all 6'4" except 6'4" plus, except for that one.
The one guy, yeah.
But all of them were from either like I mean, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I heard, that most of them are from South Sudan, and then they had that one white kid who was like a shooter.
He was from Ukraine, apparently.
So, yeah, and it really did seem like they had just paid them to come to go to there, and also nobody had really heard of Renaissance. It's a really similar situation, I think.
Well, I'm not gonna say that what Asher was talking about is happening at Renaissance, because we obviously don't know that much about the situation. But I wasn't playing because I was hurt that game, but we were winning at halftime by like 6. And our tallest guy was Ao, who's like 6'6" on a good day, and they had 2 7-footers playing a 2-3 zone. Like that made the court look small. And so I don't know. I mean, they weren't very skilled, but we just could not overcome just the length and the.
You can't teach height. That's you either got it or you don't. Yeah, like there's so much like now at the high school level, but if things got really serious at the college level and there was like an actual thorough investigation, we would be very gross about what's happening. But it works because it's exciting to watch, it's entertaining, and these guys are the future NBA All-Stars. But like, there's so many people on the back end, you know, like it's like, you remember guys, have you guys seen Thor Ragnarok? Yeah. So there's this one scene where he's in the temple and he sees like this like mural of like all this like peaceful things that him and his dad did to bring peace to the 9 realms, and then his sister Hela is like, that's not actually the real history, and she like shoots this thing up, and then the roof ends up crumbling, and then he sees like this like actual like, oh my god, my dad was like slaying these villages and all this sorts of stuff. So he sees like the bloody side of it. There's always that. So like a lot of people probably wouldn't be ready for a lot of this stuff. I've heard stories, again, I couldn't prove it. I would hope a thorough investigation would, but my biggest concern is that like a lot of these people, man, are just like in it for themselves. These older people, I'm saying, and these young people, man, they want a chance and opportunity. And if there's an older figure that feels like they could present that opportunity for them, not thinking maybe like, does this person have my best interest in mind? Does this person actually care about me? Like what you're sharing, Asher, like, yeah, that's a guy who doesn't care about these kids at all. He cares about like some sort of connection to get paid that's going to profit himself. So like, yeah, it's like, it's that whole mentality of like, yo, profits over people, you know, which is like probably not the ideal place to be in, but yeah.
I think for every guy you got like Joel Embiid or Pascal Siakam who becomes an NBA star and wasn't born in America, you see a whole lot of sad situations where kids were abused emotionally and like taken advantage of because they didn't know better. And why should they? Because they're kids.
Yeah, torn apart from their families in some ways too. Like you think like displaced on the other side of the world in this, under this promise of like this thing, but if you don't produce, like, we're moving on to the next one, you know?
All right, kind of as a closing point, kind of a little unrelated to what we've been talking about, but kind of related. Who do you have in the championship for the NBA?
Ooh, that's tough, dude. I mean, I would love for it to be Heat and Lakers, and the Heat beating the Lakers. Like that would be like a dream come true.
Oh, just for context, the Heat just advanced today. Probably when you're watching this, the conference finals just started, maybe, and the Lakers and the Rockets are playing in Game 3 right now. So just a little bit of context. So, all right. Well, I mean, I think that it's been really fun having you. It's been awesome hearing about your experience in basketball. And yeah, all right. Thanks for watching.
Appreciate it.
Rachel, we really just wanted to see how you was doing.
Thanks.
Yeah, chemotherapy really sucks.
Greg, what the hell, bro? Don't say it sucked, dumbass.